Welcome back to another explainer. Today, we're jumping right into a topic that literally hits close to home. We are breaking down exactly why plumbing in older Homewood homes seems to fail so frequently, and even more importantly, how professional repairs actually work to fix these invisible disasters. Listen, if you live in an older property, you definitely know the anxiety of an unexpected leak. So we're going to pull back the curtain on the mechanics beneath your floorboards. We'll be using the data and expertise from Fortress Plumbing Birmingham to really understand the science of your home's infrastructure. Let's get into it. Here is what we're looking at today. First, Homewood's perfect plumbing storm. Second, red clay and rusty pipes. Third, the hidden rules of plumbing. Fourth, the anatomy of an emergency rescue. And finally, real costs and code compliance. All right, kicking things off with Section 1, Homewood's perfect plumbing storm. So why do Homewood pipes seem to fail so fast? It's a question every local homeowner asks when they find a mysterious puddle in their crawl space or, suddenly lose all their water pressure. It honestly feels like just bad luck. But the answer is actually a really predictable clash between nature and aging infrastructure. The crucial point here is that failures aren't random at all. They are driven by this very specific combination of elements. Think about it. We are looking at 1950s infrastructure battling a humid, shifting environment. You've got homes built between the 1940s and 1970s with original and now heavily failing galvanized and cast iron pipes. Then you mix in our unpredictable Alabama weather with those sudden hard freezes, foundation slabs that constantly shift, and incredibly high local humidity, especially if you're down near Shades Creek. It's literally a perfect storm, constantly stressing your pipes. Moving right along to Section 2, red clay and rusty pipes. You know that famous Alabama red clay? Well, it actively attacks your pipes whether it's pouring rain out or we're in the middle of a drought. When it's wet, the clay swells heavily and pushes aggressively against your foundation slabs, which puts immense pressure on your rigid pipes. But when it's dry, the clay shrinks dramatically. It essentially pulls away, removing vital support from those exact same underground pipes. This constant back-and-forth expansion and contraction, it simply cracks underground plumbing over time. And then, of course, there's the rust. If you live in an older bungalow, your galvanized pipes are highly likely suffering from invisible internal decay right this second. Because they rot from the inside out due to local water minerals, you don't even see the danger coming. You might just notice your shower pressure dropping a bit, or maybe your tap water looks, a little discolored. That is your warning sign before those pipes develop pinhole leaks directly inside your walls. And check this out. Birmingham's severe humidity quietly steals years off your water heater's life. While a typical water heater is generally rated for 12 to 15 years, storing it in a humid local garage or crawl space rots its protective anode rod way faster than it would in a drier climate. You actually only end up getting about 8 to 10 years out of it before the tank just rusts through and completely fails. The humidity is quietly taxing your equipment every single day. Which brings us to Section 3. The hidden rules of plumbing. Let's talk about the physics for a second, because plumbers don't just wing it. They rely on strict mathematical standards. Take the 135 rule, for example. This dictates the precise slope required for horizontal drain pipes. The whole goal here is a delicate balancing act. You need the water and the waste to flow at the exact same speed. In real-world practice, this means a pipe must drop exactly 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch for every foot it runs horizontally. We're talking just 1 or 2 degrees of fall. That's it. But remember that red clay we were just talking about? Yeah, when the clay soil along Valley Avenue shifts your foundation, it completely ruins this delicate geometry. If the pipe becomes too flat, water pools and you get clogs. If the shifting makes it too steep, the water rushes ahead too fast and leaves solids behind. Okay, here is another absolutely critical number for your home. 80. 80 psi is the absolute maximum safe water pressure for a standard residential home. Normal operation in Homewood should be somewhere between 50 and 70 psi. But if your home sits at a lower elevation where the municipal pressure spikes above 80, you are putting a massive, invisible strain on every single fixture in your house. Pushing past 80 severely stresses those rigid pipe joints, it dramatically shortens the lifespan of your washing machine and dishwasher, and it directly leads to sudden, catastrophic fixture leaks. It's essentially high blood pressure for your house. This highlights a super common flaw hidden in a lot of older local crawl spaces: incorrect drain geometry. Using sharp, horizontal 90-degree elbows is basically building a trap for debris because it creates a hard turn that completely slows down your water flow. The correct method? using two 45-degree fittings or a long sweep 90 to maintain smooth drainage. Proper professionals fix these old DIY mistakes to finally stop your recurring clogs. Okay, Section 4, Anatomy of an Emergency Rescue. When water is spreading across your floor, every single minute counts, right? A legitimate local operation has to hit these exact benchmarks. First, a live local dispatch. No waiting days for a callback. Then you get a 15-minute alert letting you know the tech is actually en route. The standard is arriving within 45 minutes, fully loaded, which leads to an immediate diagnosis and, usually, a same-day fix. So what actually happens when they show up? Well, a real professional response emphasizes objective diagnostics over destructive guessing. They aren't just going to start ripping up your yard right away. They use camera lines and electronic leak detection. Then, they provide a rock-solid written estimate before even touching a wrench, so there is zero hidden fees. Finally, they execute the guaranteed repair and fully clean up the workspace. Local expertise is absolutely non-negotiable here because responses have to adapt to neighborhood microgeographies. This geo-specific knowledge is vital. Treating a house near Vulcan Trail like a house out in West Homewood is a recipe for misdiagnosis and repeat failures. A tech needs to know instantly that Soho Square has modern setups, while the Hollywood neighborhood is hiding 60-year-old rusting cast iron stacks. Finally, let's hit Section 5, Real Costs and Code Compliance. Let's talk numbers. Total transparency here. These are realistic repair costs provided directly from the source, so you know exactly what to expect. Standard hourly rates? They usually sit between $75 and $150, but you should expect $150 to $250 for those late-night emergencies. Simple tasks like a faucet repair run around $150 to $300, while larger jobs like a water heater install can span from $800 up to $2,500. Having these baselines is super helpful for spotting when an estimate is suspiciously low or just unfairly high. Remember, plumbing isn't just gluing pipes together. It's a strict science, governed by safety codes meant to protect your family. Modern PEX 2B needs expansion fittings just to survive that Alabama clay soil movement. Copper absolutely must have dielectric unions when connecting to steel, otherwise it creates rapid galvanic corrosion. Drain lines legally require a 2% grade. Gas lines, they have to hold 10 psi for 15 minutes to prove there's no leak. Heck, even new water heaters require earthquake straps. Which brings us to the hidden dangers of DIY. Look, if you try to bypass these rules, sure, you might save a few bucks today, but an unpermitted fix is essentially a ticking time bomb for your property value. Improper plumbing work leaves you legally liable. It can actually cause your insurance company to outright deny your water damage claims when a pipe inevitably fails. And to top it off, it creates massive code violations that will easily derail your future home sale during inspection. There's a saying that I think perfectly captures the ultimate lesson of maintaining an older home in this challenging local environment. The money you saved on a cheap repair costs thousands to correct properly later. It is just so much more cost-effective to respect the physics, the local soil conditions, and the legal codes the first time around. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want you to take a moment and consider the silent infrastructure directly under your feet. Knowing what we now know about the swelling Alabama clay and decades of hidden rust, ask yourself, are the pipes under your foundation a disaster waiting to happen? Honestly, it might just be time for a professional diagnostic checkup before the next big freeze hits. Thanks so much for learning with us today, and stay curious about the mechanics that make your home work.